In this video, we are installing Make It Modular's High to Hydro into an S197 Mustang. This is going to give you a step-by-step installation instructions for each part of the process, including mounting all the brackets, the master cylinder, the lines, cutting the plastic, everything, so that you can get a hydro e-brake inside your Mustang while still retaining all the stock functionality. Let's check it out. Step one is to remove the upper and lower console, which also involves removing your stock shifter ball and the little boot that goes above it. Now, again, all you need here are basic hand tools, a couple sockets, and a Phillips screwdriver, and everything pops right off. There are two brackets in this kit. We'll cover the front one first. This is held in place by 2 bolts and 2 nuts. Personally, I used Loctite on each of these and torqued it to 84 inch-pounds. You can go back and look at the time lapse if you want to see exactly how it sits, but it will really only fit one way. This actually fits in here really, really well. So you take one of the clips off on this side. I just got it test fit. I'll have to pull it back out so I can slide the actual handle in. And then this allows you, there's like a little set screw here, so you can make sure the handle stays in place. So we'll go and put the handle in and then kind of stop for a second. I think I'm going to disconnect this piece just so it's not in my way the whole time. And I would definitely put some Loctite in here for sure. That's how it looks once you get it in there. I would wrap this with something so you don't smash your stereo or your gauges like mine. I just want to see how it would fit. Down here in these little clips, I put a tiny bit of anti-seize, which rolled off, but just to lubricate that shaft. And then I took these little C-clips and rotated them just in case this piece of fabric was rubbing on it. It couldn't try and push it out over time. Looks like this bracket does sit on top of this other bracket down here. So we'll undo those nuts, which you can't see, but that are right there. We'll go ahead and install this, place my carpet just so it fits a little bit better. You don't have to do that, that's up to you, but I think I'm gonna do that. These are a 13 millimeter, and they weren't in there super tight. So we'll go ahead and undo this. If you've ever taken out your parking brake before, you'll know that there's actually more to it than just these 2 nuts holding it on, and the other ones are a pain to get to, so I'm glad it's only hooking to these. Ran into an issue, it won't fit. Well, that side fits, but that side doesn't, and the reason being is, see that big hump right there? So basically, what you're gonna have to do is take your bracket and notch this out right here so it'll fit. While we're on the subject of trimming, you might as well trim that little corner too, and I'll show you why. Basically, mine wanted to make contact with my, there we go, see it? Now it clears so I can put my parking brake all the way down. A little bit frustrating, but this is a aftermarket parking brake, but it should be an OEM replacement, so I'm guessing if you want yours to fit nice, you're gonna have to do this on yours too. As I was editing this video, I realized I took a picture instead of a video at this point, but all you need to know is hit pause right here and see how the master cylinder bolts to the bracket. It's pretty self-explanatory. I had my wife hop in the car to see where she liked this. I think it's now in a good spot. It's not so far back that it's gonna hit the e-brake. Since I clear installed the brackets, the e-brake fits. The closest spot is when you go into first here. Not having a short throw would suck in this situation. This is a Hurst short throw, so that helps. I think this is in a good spot. I'm gonna go ahead and Loctite these 2 jam nuts in place. I'm not gonna Loctite this one in yet, just in case I've gotta undo this and move it just to get the console and everything back in. And then I can't forget, there's like this little collar here that I'm gonna also have to hook into place. We're gonna get to the fun cutting part. So they give you a diagram and it talks about the top console and the bottom console. That should be relatively straightforward. The top console is the part that goes on top. It's this piece. So you've got this right here, and there's this line, and basically you wanna take this line where my thumb is and line it up with that right there. And then there's a soft bend. They say soft bend because it's kind of a little bit of a radius there. And you basically got to cut that part out. Now I'm going to round the corners, probably with a drill bit or something like that first. On the bottom, there's also some metal that you got to cut through as well. So we'll go ahead and do that. If you want to make this aesthetically pleasing and round the corners, I recommend using a step drill.
The nice thing about that is you can not have to change drill bits if you want to increase the radius. Get yourself a little Dremel tool. I'm using a Milwaukee one, but any kind of little Dremel tool will work really well here. You're gonna have to flip the thing over in a couple different positions to get yourself good angles to make all the cuts, but the fact that they give you those templates and everything is to scale makes this super easy. You'll see me come back with like a little deburring disc to try and just smooth things out. You can take as much or as little time here, but it's super easy. Just like when you're done, the one mistake was I got a little marker left over here, but honestly, rounded edges, I think it came out okay. It's not the easiest thing to get in there, but just don't break anything, take your time, and we can go and, you know, clean up the little flashing around the edges. I hit it with some 800 grit sandpaper and it's way smoother to the touch, so I think it's gonna work. So I've got this template here, but a couple things to note. So this little bend line is matched with that, we'll call it like a 45. But from what I can see in the pictures, they run it all the way over the seam and then straight down, because you've also got to take this lip out to right there. So we're going to try and cut this out. No radius corners on this one, which makes it a little bit nicer. And then you've also got to get back in here. This little piece comes out and you've got to do some work in here so that you can actually access your master cylinder. And then they don't show it, but I need to figure out how I'm going to actually run the line, the hydraulic line. So I don't know whether I'm going to drill a hole in here. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get to it. Let's cut this first. I can't remember if I say this later on or not, but if you've never used a Dremel before, I'd actually recommend doing this part first. I know I showed you the top section, but this all gets hidden by the top part of the console. So if you're new to using a Dremel and cutting plastic, maybe try this part first because it all gets hidden. It's not hard to do, and I actually turned the speed down on my Dremel. It seemed to put less heat into it and made a slightly better cut. All in all, just take your time. You'll be totally fine. Okay, so we got this cut out here, wraps around. Honestly, this came out pretty good. Again, you can get crazy with removing all these little flashing pieces and make it like perfect, but it's up to you. This isn't going to be seen now. This little cover pops out over here, but unfortunately you need more space than that. So my understanding is you're going to lose this first coin holder, and we've got to cut around here. I'm going to try and leave some of this bottom lip down here for the sole purpose of if anything goes down in here, you know, if I want to use this for something, that it doesn't fall down underneath. So I'm going to try and leave this little lip, but I think I've got to cut a bunch of this, and I got to look at some pictures and figure that out. There it is, cut out. Remember that part where I said I wouldn't cut that bottom lip? Well, I kind of messed it up. It's not terrible. The funny thing is you can actually still put this little plastic cover back in place if you want to. It'll just slide right in there, just trust me. Kind of goes like that. So it covers part of the hole, and this will allow you to still get to your, with this removed, you get to your emergency brake, which is nice. I guess I kept somewhat of a lip. It's not totally flush, but this part's really hard to do. And it's almost impossible to do with just a Dremel. I had to use a rotary or like the little vibrating tool to get in here and cut a lot of this. So this is the hardest part of all the cutting. If your car's got a cigarette lighter in there like mine, it's got to come out. I'm not saying you can't route something different later, but it's going to hit the bracket, this gray bracket. This thing comes with banjo fittings. Now you'll notice two are the same and one is different. The one that is different goes to your master cylinder. So get yourself 2 crush washers, your fine threaded banjo fitting, and some sort of means to get brake fluid back to your calipers like this guy, and let's go to town. I got my line in here zip tied and kind of running the back. Fitment is pretty good, meaning I can adjust that line right there. I can adjust my handle. I can kind of do everything with the way the cutout is. So I'm actually pretty pleased with this. I'm just going to run my line straight out the back. Don't worry, I'll get some 8L clamps or something to hold it down. But so far, honestly, fitting pretty good once you make those modifications. If you want to go ahead and torque the banjo bolt down here, it's hard to see. I read online it says anywhere from 96 to 120 inch-pounds if using new copper crush washers. So we're going to do the middle of that, 108 inch-pounds. I got to set the camera down, tighten this, and then Loctite some more items over there, and then we can pop that top cover in place and get a look at this thing. Don't get too excited and forget to skip the Loctite here. This is what holds your actual handle that you grab
to your heim joints and to the little like turnbuckle style thing that allows you to make all the adjustments. We're gonna throw this in. We're not gonna go crazy tight because we don't want to bind anywhere, but we don't want this to rattle loose either. So I'm just gonna put this in, grab my Allen wrench, and go kind of like hand tight snug. Okay, now that we've got everything Loctited in place where it needs to be, we're happy with our handle adjustment. We went and torqued the banjo fitting down there. I know we can get access to this. I'm comfortable to say, go ahead and install this top cover. The trick is to snake it on with the e-brake up. So pull your e-brake up. As you're fishing everything in, you might need to take your finger with the other hand and just kind of move that handle so everything fits. Take your time here. You know, I've got aftermarket gauges and a different stereo, so things might sit out a little bit further, but you don't want to bend this bracket at all. And then once we get it in place, we'll clip it in. Everything's lined up. We're just gonna kind of push this back down into place here, like so. And there's a bunch of clips that this should just sit into, and it does, and everything fits super nice. Put your e-brake down. I've got an aftermarket shifter here, so I'll reinstall my boot. Throw this back on there, get in there. And, you know, just be careful with everything because, you know, you did remove some material from there. So don't go, you know, jamming everything down on there until it's all lined up, because remember, the plastic, you've cut away some plastic. But I'm here to tell you, everything does fit super nicely, and you've got plenty of access in there to, you know, bleed your system, add fluid, whatever you got to do. Adjust your parking brake, that's still retained. It's a great system. Don't forget the 2 Phillips screws here in the back. Once you got everything hooked into place, just go ahead and tighten those down just by hand. That hits the key points on how to install Make It Modular's high to hydro in your S197 Mustang. If you would like to see more content like this, maybe you'd like to see how to install dual caliper brackets in the rear, how to tie the rest of the system together, coilovers, angle kit, all that stuff, check out my channel. I got tons of more videos on this car specifically, but hopefully you found this video helpful and it helped you install that new high to hydro, which is super slick in your S197 Mustang. Thanks a lot.